Welcome, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have a fantastic episode coming up for you tonight. Lesley Mitchell-Clarke is with us. Coming up next. Welcome, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I'm author and researcher Mike Ricksecker. With me, as always, my co-hostess, Victoria Monday, and down in the chat room, Alina, moderating the chat. We have a fantastic show coming up for you tonight. Lesley Mitchell-Clarke is with us. She is a Toronto-based certified clinical hypnotherapist who specializes in a number of modalities, including working with individuals who feel that they have had experiences with extraterrestrial beings. And most of this fascinating work, as well as metaphysical therapies, such as past life and interlife regression, takes place at Lesley's Toronto hypnosis clinic, Lightwork Hypnosis. So we're going to get into all of these things very soon. I do want to let everybody know, stay tuned. Directly following our interview with Lesley, we have a very important announcement coming up about Edge of the Rabbit Hole, so please stay tuned for that. But without further ado, Lesley, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely a pleasure to meet you, because we've had a couple people on the show to talk about this sort of thing, about like past life regression, interacting with extraterrestrials, experiences, these sorts of things. And I always enjoy hearing everybody's take on this subject, because it seems like somebody will have an experience, it stays with them, and then you use the hypnosis to draw that out, and the stories that come out of that are absolutely fascinating, because it's like a world that we're just not familiar with, and it's very fantastical. So tell us a little bit about your work, please.
Well, I would just like to start off by saying that hypnosis is ancient in the extreme. Mm-hmm. It's a technique that is at least 6,000 years old, and if one accepts antediluvian civilizations, it's even older than that. So hypnosis is a very ancient technique, and it's powerful, but yet quite simple in the way. And if I can get, or any practitioner, if I can get a person's body relaxed enough, then I can access the subconscious mind. And the subconscious is where all behaviors are formed. It's essentially where all our memories live. And so whether I'm doing, therapeutic hypnosis for be a mainstream issue, insomnia, pain management, what have you, or whether I am doing a deeper process of regression, the principle remains exactly this: relax the body, and then we can talk to the subconscious, and we can disrupt negative behaviors and instigate new positive. We can also access really any aspect of a person's recollections, whether it's this current lifetime, whether it's lifetime, whether it's repressed memories that are only partially recalled. All of these things can be accessed in a gentle, therapeutic way, simply inducting people into the alpha state, or even more deeply into the theta state.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. Victoria and I have both gone through this before, and to me, just the memories that came out of that I was unaware of, just truly blew my mind following that. And Victoria, I think the same can be said of you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they really weren't like memories. When she would ask me something, the answer would pop out of my mouth. And to me, they weren't memories. It was just, oh, okay, well, this is it, which seemed a little strange to me, because I think if I was going to make something up, I would stop and try and pick really eloquent words and make a story out of it. But I was just rattling off information.
Well, exactly. Exactly. And now some people are, not everybody is what we would call a quick processor like yourself. You were able to, tap into the Akashic records and everything else and just come forth with the information. Sometimes people are slower processors, particularly if they're more visually oriented, and they get obsessed with the details of what they're looking at. So, but it does feel, I know that in the beginning of a regression, at first, sometimes people report that it feels a bit like it feels a bit like you're making stuff up, but yet, as you
Exactly.
say, there's a fluidity to it. And of course, we have a lot of markers that we look for that indicate what kind of trance a person is in. And now, could somebody fool me? Would be a really viable question. Um, I would have to say it would be very, very hard. Has someone fooled me? I think twice. In a past life regression
Hmm.
by somebody who had some kind of, sociopathic tendencies or some type of repressed acting ability. I don't know, but it has happened twice. But when you think about it, I've been working in hypnotherapy. I'm now a master hypnotherapist, and I've been doing that for
Oh,
about 20 years. And I would say that for the past 15 years, a big chunk of my work has been focused on working with experiencers or people who believe that they have had some type of high strangeness episode, and they may come to me with partial memories. They may come to me just with missing time, just chunks of time that are missing. They may come to me with where there's been some type of group experience, like in a family unit. So it's incredibly fascinating work, and I think I'm one of there's probably not a great amount of us doing this work. I wish there were more. I think I might even start teaching these techniques just to get more people out there who can help this incredible number of individuals who have experienced high strangeness. And also, one of the newer aspects of things, by newer, I'd say during the past 5-10 years, I have had many individuals come to me who were participants in some type of ET, government, military combined thing, and actually served in what we call the 20 and back. So we can talk about that later, but
ooh,
Sure. No, that would be
it's
fascinating. Yeah.
fascinating work, and yeah.
Yeah, if you start teaching it, that would be great, because I think we do need more people that are learned in this field. Now, with these different experiencers
Mhm.
that you've worked with, do you find things in common with them? Like, do these experiences happen to like a certain type of people, or do they have certain characteristics that are similar, between each one,
Hmm.
or do they come from all
Very
different
interesting
walks of
question.
life?
Now, well, yes. I mean, what I would my initial answer to your question would be that this phenomena crosses all lines of socioeconomic status, ethnicity, religion, nationality. Encounters have happened since our earliest recorded history, and before that, the Bible's full of them, except they are interpreted, I think, as more of a angelic experience, but I believe it to be
Mhm.
actually encounters with evolved beings. So yeah, it can really be something that is, as the media would used to kind of want you to believe, that is that these encounters only happen to old farmers in the South with like one tooth or something. But it's not anything like that. I have worked with individuals who are from such diverse professions as doctors, judges, lawyers, social workers, and I've also worked with people who are barely functional and are on the dole or some type of assistance so that they can, try to negotiate life. So it's not the same experience for everyone, but the experience does transcend any of what we would interpret as barriers. The one thing, the commonality though, and I really do believe that this is the big key, or one of the keys to the whole thing, is that the people who are abducted, and I don't like to use that word, but the experiencers are invariably blessed with increased PSI skills, psychic abilities, and which is why, to a certain extent, some encounter experiences are multi-generational, and the beings appear to be following lines of heredity. I feel that it's all about who can we communicate with the most easily. And, for example, say you were, Jane Goodall, and you were out in the middle of, some remote place in Africa, and you discovered an unknown tribe of apes, and a few of them had developed ability to make speaking sounds. They had a developed humanoid kind of physiology and could actually form words. Now, wouldn't you spend your time, or a lot of your time, working with those further
Sure.
evolved apes, if you will, who had the ability for speech? Well, I think this is the same thing, because what we keep hearing over and over and over again is that most of the sophisticated beings we engage with operate primarily telepathically. Many of them can speak and are humanoid, just like us. In fact, so similar to us that you would never know that they were from anywhere else. And that's a fact. And I think that there are, in fact, many extraterrestrials moving about in a benign, positive way among us, who are so biologically similar. But there are many dissimilar beings too. But I think that telepathy amongst all the beings that we seem to be engaging with is a big factor. And they are really looking for human beings who are either carrying a specific genetic marker, or whose family has been involved for generations. I think that kind of ties it. That's the only commonality I have found in all of this work. I mean, a true commonality. Now, there are some secondary commonalities, and I think that many of the people that I work with who have had this more latter day type of black ops experience come from military families, or families who have been stationed along the dew line, which the dew line, if you guys are young whippersnappers, but the dew line was a series of Canadian and United States military bases that were that were designed so that they could respond first to a Russian
Hmm.
attack of some sort.
Yeah.
So they were along pretty much within 100 miles of the U.S.-Canadian border are a number of military bases, which are joint Canadian-U.S. operations, and that was called the DEW Line. And many of the individuals I work with who have had these military type experiences had fathers and maybe even grandfathers who were military, and they had contact with the military by being living on base, as it were.
Well, and I've always wondered because, okay, you're like you've said, they're following hereditary lines. So I've always wondered, are some of these, extraterrestrial races, they have longer lifespans where, let's say in extraterrestrial race, has a lifespan of like 200 years. They would be able to personally follow a particular family down the line. Do you think that's a
Mhm.
possibility?
I think it's entirely possible, and also remember, I think that some large percentage of beings that make contact with us are more what you would call interdimensional
Yeah.
beings, rather than beings from a location in another galaxy. And some interdimensional beings and some sophisticated beings from all have lighter bodies. They're not as densely physical as we are always. I mean, we this is the third density. This is as dense as it gets. I mean, look at what goes on in our world. I mean, really, we are and so I think that I think that indeed there are beings that, and of course maybe it would depend on their home planet and what goes on as far as their astronomical situation. I think lifespan is a very complex thing that doesn't necessarily have to do with anything genetic. It could be an environmental factor. fractal thing, where like with the Anunnaki who had extended lifespans because of the large elliptical orbit of their sun. So our sun, actually. So there you go. I think I think there's a lot of diversity. I think there's a lot of diversity in the universe, and um, I it's amazing how many beings I think we are engaging with. I don't know if you recall a lovely man. He just passed away not long ago, the late Paul Hellyer. And Paul
Yeah.
Hellyer was, at one time, he was the Minister of Defense in Canada, which is a huge position. He also was a Ontario. So he was very high up in the political echelon. And what he told me not long before he passed was that, to his knowledge, the Canadian government, and that has to mean the US government too, but he said the Canadian government is engaging in positive diplomatic relations with over 80 different species right now.
Wow. Okay, I have about 15 questions now.
Go ahead, Victoria. I know you've been waiting.
Okay, and most of them are not connected. They're all out here now. First of all, I'm on pause right now, but I was studying to get my master's in psychology because I want to be a clinical hypnotherapist, regressing people. And when I told my counselor that, she goes, "Well, that's not a real job."
Ooh.
So, so you're right. More people do need to learn this.
I know.
Anyway,
I know, and I'm really used to being dismissed. I'm very used to being dismissed as a snake oil salesman, or I mean, this is it's unfortunate, but and I think part of that is because we're not really liked very much by the pharmaceutical industry, and it's not that we are anti-pharmaceuticals or medicines or anything like that, but the truth is that there are many, many things that people are taking medicines for that can be literally cured by stress reduction and other things that we do. So people that are like borderline diabetics, by working on their diet and hypnosis, they've been able to completely get themselves to the point of not having to have medication. So we're not really with the pharmaceutical industry, which is, of course, one of the most massive lobbies in the world and influences everything that goes on to a certain extent. So that's an issue. But we are finally getting recommendations from medical doctors for specific things. For instance, I work a lot in insomnia or quitting smoking. Now, that kind of thing, a medical doctor is now fairly likely to recommend because it works.
Yeah, my workaround
and
is to say,
another thing is, of course, for
okay. Oh, my workaround was to say, okay, yes, ma'am. And then I was just going to do it on my own. I was just going to learn, hypnotherapy on my own. But when you were talking about interdimensional beings, could they possibly, if all time exists concurrently, let's say Fred from Pluto or wherever wants to pop in, could he pop in throughout a different time span of someone's life? Does travel work that way?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
I kind of have the feeling, I don't really think that time is linear in the way that we think of it. I think that's a construct that we have developed so that we can accomplish things that we need to do to become better people and learn and grow. I think it's probably more like an onion. And I think that a lot of things are sort of happening in a way simultaneously, like one big creative burst of some sort. Now, I think that time travel is a reality, and I think it's been a reality since the Montauk chair, since the early experiments, the Philadelphia experiment. I think that it exists. I think the military has used it, and if we are to believe these dear souls who have been part of this 20 and back process, they are regressed back 20 years to their high school selves after they complete their 20-year tour of duty. So it's being used. It's just it's not a part of what the common man, what has been deemed the common man, can absorb, which I think is complete BS. I think that we are a civilization who is ready to accept the existence of benevolent, a variety of extraterrestrials, because I can't say that all the beings out there are good. That would be a misrepresentation. But I will say the majority of experiences that people have that I work with are extremely benevolent and benign. The majority.
I think, like with anything, you're going to have your good and you're going to have your bad. And the work that I do, because I do a lot of work. I have a book on shadow people, so I get a lot of interviews on that. And I get very simplistic with it. I'm just like, take a human. Some humans are good, some humans are bad. Conversely, some shadow people are good, some shadow people are bad. And same thing with ETs. Some ETs are good, some ETs are bad. It's kind of the nature of the universe, the kind of the yin and the yang, the good, the bad. You have all of that. So that's fantastic, because you have so many people out there say, no, they're all evil and they're going to try to do us harm, and it scares people. And so
not at all.
But yeah.
I hate that, by the way. I do hate
too.
that.
Yeah.
I hate the fear mongering. And
there's a little delay. We're
as much
dealing
as
with
admire.
it.
Oh, I'm sorry, sweetheart. But I'm sorry. But as much as I admire David Icke, his whole thing is about, the reptilians. The reptilians are coming. I think the reptilian thing plays into a very basic human fear. I mean, for God's sake, we're carrying reptilian DNA. They used to call they used to call that center part of the brain the reptilian brain. We don't use that expression anymore, but we are comprised of a lot of different elements. I think earth elements and also extraterrestrial elements. So we're a combination of stuff, and so are many, many beings. This cross-pollination or panspermia, or whatever you wish to call it, has been occurring throughout the universe since the dawn of creation, really. And I also think that, as far as space travel, we've been led to believe that we've got to get in the tin capsule and, go thousands of miles away. I don't think that's how space travel is actually working. I believe there are vortices, there are navigational wormholes. There is also a kind of a thing where apparently many beings who have reached a certain point of evolution prefer to just project themselves. They are able to project solid kind of holographic images of themselves, because they say, why should I, it's kind of like us during COVID. Why should I get in my car and go to work when I can do everything from my living room? So there is some element of that. We're not, when we see craft and when we see some ETs, we're not necessarily seeing a dense physicalized form. We may be seeing essentially a telepathic projection, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes total sense, because I think that's a lot of these different types of entities that we see. I was speaking about shadow people earlier, where some of them are very translucent in nature. Some people talk about seeing like a shimmer man sort of a thing, and so it makes a lot of sense that would be the projection of somebody's or something's consciousness to our reality, and we're getting a glimpse of that.
She went away.
Yeah, we lost your volume. Lesley, we lost your volume. Nope. No. Nope, we lost her. We can see you. Uh-oh.
Reboot?
Yeah, it's not like I hit the mute button or anything.
I don't have one over here.
Mm-mm. So she's checking.
She said something earlier. I was cheating once again, listening at.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Other people's podcasts. That should be a show. Other people's podcasts.
There
I
you
heard
go.
this week. Okay. Oh, are you back?
We get you back.
I can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Well, there you had some
I
time travel right there.
Exactly.
I actually heard you say on another person's podcast when I was trying to study, and you're the only person who has ever said this other than myself. I haven't heard anybody else say this, so I wanted to get your thoughts on it. But you were talking about, and I totally forget, I'm sorry, where you were visiting. But the way when I see things, it's like putting two negatives together and you can see each one, but you can't see each one. You know, it's like a double image. And you were talking about
Oh,
seeing a double
yeah.
exposure.
hmm
And you're the only other person. I'm so excited when I
Yeah,
heard that
yeah.
because everyone's like, no, I see things clearly. I'm like, well, how do you
I've
drive
I,
then
I've
if you're
no. Yeah. Well, it's I will tell you absolutely about that was a remarkable thing that happened in Edinburgh, and
yes.
but sometimes, and I'm a little bit. I wouldn't say I'm psychic. I'd say I'm sensitive. I mean, I'm Irish. I got some of the Blarney and
There you
some of
go.
the shining. So I will sometimes see discarnate beings as very solid and as physical as you and I. I will sometimes see them that way. I used to see them more that way when I was younger. Now it's more of a feeling and seeing it in my head.
Mhm.
It's not really always that same. Sometimes still, I'll even see a very solid spirit when I'm least expecting it. Now, the thing that you're talking about, and I've had this double exposure thing happen in historical places a number of times where I've seen it as it was in the past
Right.
and overlaid by the contemporary time. So I think what you're talking about is I was taking a bus tour around the city, and it's a very tiny city. It's not big at all, and the tour bus went down into an area that is still called but Grass Market,
Mhm.
and I looked at this long stretch just underneath Edinburgh Castle, and I said, "Well, this is wrong. This is not how it's supposed to look." And then grad impression, this double exposure thing started to happen where I saw a big body of water, like a real lake that was at the end of the grass market. And then I saw a very bit of apparatus. It looked like a trebuchet, like some
Mhm.
kind of war thing you'd see in Lord of the Rings, is what it looked like. And I saw this image, and eventually it evaporated. Now, later, I went to the National Museum of Scotland and I looked at some ancient pictures of Edinburgh, and indeed, there was a lake there. There was,
Okay.
and I had never been there before. I had no idea. There was a large lake, and also I saw drawings of the thing that I saw, and Edinburgh, during a certain period of time, was caught up in the witch hunt deal where all
Mm,
the women of intelligence, all the wise women were
yeah.
being murdered throughout Europe. And this was it was on the orders of the Roman Catholic Church. This is what was happening. So what they would do is they were torturing these women by putting them in this chair, in this kind of thing that dunked them in the river
Mhm.
or the
Oh,
lake.
okay.
And
Yeah.
if they drowned, that meant that they weren't a witch. So,
Right, exactly.
you
Yeah.
know,
But they'll be
that's not
forgiven.
a
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. The whole
a,
ducking thing.
a,
Yeah.
a
So,
they'll
but
be forgiven. It's a lose-lose. So that's what I saw, and yeah.
yeah, that whole experience to me sounds like a time slip. You've probably heard of the Versailles time slip, and
Oh
where
yeah.
you're seeing images of
Yes.
another place in time that's really just sitting there on top of our current existence. So the question for me has always been, okay, but what
hmm
kicks it off? How can we trigger it? Because it's there.
It happens to me
Well, I
quite
think
often.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. My thought is, because I've been to many places in the world, and that doesn't always happen. But my thought is
Sure.
that maybe in one of my past life experiences, that has significance. I tell you, I felt like I knew the town. Like I could
Hmm.
go anywhere and I knew exactly where I was. I mean, it was a strange familiarity that I certainly had always experienced. I guess my feeling was that I needed to see that, but certainly. I'm an advocate of the, kind of the stone tape theory. I think things that have
Yeah.
happened leave impressions that can, under the right circumstances, and we'll probably have a way to do this technically at some point, but under the right circumstances, we can in fact read that environment, read those experiences that are contained in all that stone, all that granite, all that crystalline stone that's around the whole area. So that's my thought, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, they're using quartz crystal now to record data right on there, and bigger than the
Yeah.
hard drives on our computer. There's terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of information that it's storing these little crystals. It's absolutely
Hmm.
amazing. So, yeah, how much
Hmm.
information could a building made of granite? And granted, it's like 55% quartz. A building with that material in it. How much information
Hmm.
over all the centuries could it possibly be storing? So, yeah, and again, it's like, what's the catalyst to
It's
make it
all there.
so we can view it? Yeah,
Yeah. Well, it probably, I'm going to say there are all kinds of environmental factors, probably. There are environmental factors that have to do with humidity and moisture, and because it doesn't always happen. And I
right.
think also that, you know, a large amount of beings that people see and of course call ghosts, what they're really seeing is a residual haunt. They're really seeing simply a reel that repeats itself. As Dan Aykroyd said in Ghostbusters, Peter. So I don't know if that's a real term, but that's kind of what they are. But there are also spirits, entities who have left their physical bodies, who are either afraid to move into the light, either afraid to leave the physical dimension entirely because of maybe they're worried about what they did in their lives, maybe it's a religious to hell. So there are all kinds of reasons why a spirit can stick around an environment. And so whenever I do any kind of investigation like this, the whole objective for me is spirit release, is bringing the light and walking these people through and calling forth their relatives to come for them. So we have, but it's a universe of free will, guys. We can choose to stay and be attached to physical things. We can choose to move ahead and go to a dimension of a higher vibration where we can maybe plan, our next life in physical reality if we wish to. It is, and people can progress or not progress. Look at the diversity of the humanoids on this planet. I mean, we have
Yeah.
people who are serial murderers and all kinds of other awful things. And then we've got Martin Luther King Jr., we've got the Dalai Lama. I mean, just to name some really lovely, evolved people. That's a lot of diversity in evolvement. So I think what has happened now in our world is we are making a very strong attempt to uplift those beings that are still in spiritual squalor, as it were.
Well, is that like we pass away in this lifetime? And I believe in reincarnation. We pass on, we come back. Would that be possibly why people choose to come back? Because you hear about, okay, we go off to this home world. It's very peaceful. It's lovely. All these different things. Do we get bored up there, or do we decide, well, I'm seeing people need help down there. Are we coming down to help? What do you think is the thought process in returning to this world?
I think all of the above. Now, firstly, it's a highly creative and exciting environment that we go to after we leave here. It's creative. People engage with each other. It's not densely physical. Therefore, all matter is created by thought. But that's opportunity for creativity. So I think where we learn the most about that question that you asked would be in interlife regressions. And of course, that's pioneered and really established by the great Michael Newton. And I was blessed to study with Dr. Georgina Cannon, who was one of Michael Newton's students. So the interlife regression involves regressing the client into their most recent life. Now, we don't spend a lot of time there. We take them through the life, take them through the death experience, and then what we're interested in is where they go after they pass out of that life and before they come into this one. And there are many commonalities that people experience. Obviously they experience being greeted by loved ones or religious figures or whatever. Sometimes there's a tunnel of light, sometimes not.
Mhm.
Sometimes they need spiritual healing if there's been a traumatic event or a long, terrible illness, and that happens there. There is a life review, not a punitive, punishing, thing, but a sane kind of look at how you did and how maybe you can do better the next time. People appear before their councils. We all have a council when we are ready to perhaps come back in. And it's the council that goes through our life review with us in a loving and healing way. And something that might interest you is that what I have heard reported over many, many interlife regressions is that the beings on the council are not necessarily all what we would call Homo sapiens sapiens. Some of the beings on the council have elongated skulls. They're really in the ballpark of being of humanoid. I mean, we're talking about heads and arms, and I know there are other very more far out beings, but the beings in our soul group are also existing. We're in a soul group with beings that have populated other planets all over the universe. So we're really not alone.
Yeah,
We're not
absolutely.
alone here, and we're not alone in the spiritual dimensions either. We are all joined. We are all one, really.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
I believe
with
that.
variations, with
Yeah,
diversity.
absolutely. So we have some questions from the chat that I want to get to. Before I do that, though, Victoria, I'm sure you have a question or two you want to follow up with, and then we'll get the questions from the chat.
Okay. One real quick question. Well, that's a lie. Um, when I was having my last regression, yeah, okay, you got me now. We were talking about my favorite topic, the hollow earth, Antarctica, and aliens and all that sort of stuff. And when the lady was asking me questions, I knew I was hearing answers, but they weren't in English, and I couldn't hear them to even imitate them. And I know my mouth was moving, but I wasn't making any sounds. Is that something you've encountered before?
Mhm. Oh, all kinds of things happen with languages. All kinds of things. People will hear, as you just reported, a very very foreign sounding speech, and it may even be just clicks or sounds, or it's that's something that I hear that I hear reported to me, pretty often. Sometimes in past life regressions, people will even speak another language. It's unusual, but it does happen. And well, one of the two people that fooled me. I'm going to tell you a story.
Okay.
I'm not really the hero of this story, but so this gentleman came to me who claimed to be a metaphysical practitioner and all of these things and a teacher and blah blah blah. Okay, well, I didn't feel that he was insane, or mentally ill, so I said, okay, we'll do a regression. And I had actually met him at a ufology convention or something, and so I said, okay. So the guy comes in, and I get him into trance, and we're going back, and all of a sudden he starts writhing in my hypnosis chair, as if somebody stuck a hot poker into his organs. He's
Oh, wow.
writhing, and then he starts like screaming and talking in another language. But you know what, honestly, it could have been like those Christian people who speak in tongues where it's just nonsense, longolalia. Could have been that, and because I think he was completely conscious, and just it was a real stellar theatrical turn for him. And so this goes on, and I finally thought, I've got to take control of this session. I've just got to take back my control. So finally I calmed him down, and I brought him out, and he said, oh, well, I gave birth to a dragon in your office. And I said,
Oh, wow.
great. I said, well, I'll get it housebroken.
Was his name Simon? Just kidding. No.
Oh, jeez.
No, I met a man a couple years ago,
No.
and he could speak to unicorns. I don't think he's in this country anymore, so I feel free to say this now. I'm like, okay, well, why not? Who am I to say no, unicorns don't exist if they're multidimensional or whatever? And I'm like, okay, so you speak to unicorns. He goes, no, I'm the king of the unicorns. I'm like, well, okay, Your Highness. So anyway, I wanted to ask you about past life regressions. Now, I have done my Akashic records, because I don't watch TV, so I have this kind of time to do all this stuff. And, I've done several past life regressions, and I have remembered, me personally, just, sitting around with nothing to do on Saturday night, I remember about 9 past lives. The person who did my Akashic records said I had 17, and then the lady who regressed me said I had even more. Is there any way we could bring some of those memories back into our current life? And would we have, like, I don't want to say multiple personalities, but add to the dimension of our personalities, perhaps? We can carry some of those characteristics back.
Oh, yes. I mean, we are individual souls. We're the same soul, and souls come with a lot of behavioral stuff. And there are some people who believe that, the knowledge, our self-knowledge is actually living in exterior to our physical self. But I really think that every past life regression is about self-understanding and self-exploration. And every time we do a regression, we are learning and growing from that information. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to get it. It's not being withheld from us. And there are plenty of people, who can put themselves in a meditative state and just travel in their past lives without any kind of an exterior assistant like myself. So
Right.
yeah, you can. There are people that can. Shirley MacLaine can.
That's where it all started.
She used to fly in from.
No, she was my hero.
That's where it all started.
I had the Camino Road, and I had the chakra workout, whatever. Shirley MacLaine's inner workout. I would watch that all the time. That was a good one. Hard to find now.
Well, she's a wonderful gal. She used to come to fly in from LA to see my teacher, Dr. Georgina Cannon in Toronto, and for various regressions. And Georgina told me that one of the last times she came, because they had a little bit of a falling out, I think, about this, but the last time she came to see Georgina, she was in the chair, and Georgina was doing all her stuff and got her into the trance. And then after a little bit of time, Shirley MacLaine just waved her out. Just went like that. Just waved Georgina right out. So she left.
Oh,
She left the room. But so there are people that can absolutely do that. We all bring back. There are different elements of ourselves that we express all the time, even at different points in our life. I mean, one physical lifetime is almost like many lifetimes for a lot of people when we have diverse experiences. But I believe that our soul we are the same person through the whole process. And I would say, as far as the amount of past lives, 17 is not even a lot of lives. I think you have had many more lifetimes than that. I think that's that would be a highly conservative estimate. But when we put people, into trance for past life regression, unless they have like a partial memory or a feeling, unless they want to go to a certain place or look for a certain person, we just allow the universe to present the lives that are most appropriate and most helpful to whatever is going on in that person's life at that moment. And I usually try to take people through 3 past lives. It can, but again, that depends a little bit on, as we spoke earlier, if they're a quick processor or a slow processor. But I don't. It's not really a great idea to keep people in a deep trance much longer than an hour.
Mhm.
Hour and 20 minutes, something like that. It's too hard to reintegrate after that. I don't like people getting in their cars and driving off after that kind of
Right.
an experience, yeah, I don't like to keep it. If they stay in an hour and a half, we do a little aftercare. I give them a cup of tea and they're good to go.
Nice.
Okay.
Have some chocolate.
There we go. Yeah, some chocolate. Let me get to some of these.
Or chocolate. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
love dark chocolate. Let me get to some of these questions from the chat room. We're going to start with Anne Celine. Now, you talked a little bit about the military earlier. So Anne's question is, in regards to experiencers, what is the amount who have had family military background? Is it all even, or would that be a higher amount?
It seems to be very in the people that have come to me. Now, again, we are just on the tip of the iceberg, because these experiencers who have been involved in 20 and back, a lot of them are just waking up. Apparently, the military, the U.S. It's more governments involved, but the secret space program, has the ability to use memory blocks, but they can't make them last longer than 20 years. So what is happening now is the people that are coming to me and waking up are kind of all the same age,
Hmm.
but it's all happening separately. So, and out of that percentage of people, I'm going to say that as far as the people 20 and back, the military experienced people, I'm going to say it's at least half of
Okay.
those people come from what I would call military homes, where at least the father was a military participant.
That's a pretty fair amount.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. It is. I believe, one of my good friends, Randy Kramer, Captain Randy Kramer. I know that's the situation for him. I'm not sure about Corey Good, but even the very high profile guys have
Mhm.
military backgrounds.
Okay. This is from Pungai Fungi. Now, this is a question that concerns people when they go in for regression. Her question is, how much do hypnotherapists lead their patients on during regression sessions instead of letting the patients recount past lives on their own? It appears a lot of false memories may be created. So is that, it sounds like that's a concern for people that are going into a regression setting that may happen.
Well, you have to understand the process, and a good hypnotherapist doesn't lead anyone anywhere at all. We have to be like vanilla ice cream. I mean, we
Mhm.
cannot implant ideas, direct people, point them, make suggestions. All we do is ask questions.
Good.
That's all we do is ask questions. I myself have, and that was very tough, in my early career. I'd get very excited and I'd want to know more but I have learned over the years to really have a very neutral approach, and I can honestly say I do my utmost to never lead anyone in any particular direction. That's the way I was taught, and that's what I do. I'm not perfect, certainly not, but that's what I do my best to do.
Great. This one is actually from our chat moderator, Alina. She threw it down in our little
Oh.
private chat here. She says, my question for Lesley. Do you know if extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings intentionally make us forget if some of us have been visited and we don't remember it? So are they repressing our memories
Yeah.
from us? Okay.
Oh, sometimes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and but I am of the belief that no memory block, so-called memory block, can last forever. And I think sometimes in the case of our ET friends, the memory block is, they consider it necessary because the person may not be ready to process what is going on, what has been going on. I think some of them are time dated. And I think some of these memory blocks that are installed by the ETs are simply time dated. And I would say that most of the experiencers that come to me that are lifelong experiencers, that they are in midlife.
Okay.
Hmm.
That's
That's
interesting.
really, yeah. Because
Go ahead,
Most,
Victor.
and
there'll be times like when, okay, the rare times when I'm like cleaning or vacuuming or something, and all of a sudden some really random, bizarre memory will pop back in. I'm like, oh yeah, that really did happen, didn't it? And I wouldn't be thinking about like that person or that situation at all. Is that what you're talking about? Like they just, memories just come back at a certain time?
I believe so. And they usually come back kind of fragmented,
Hmm.
which is what will often compel someone to come see me.
Okay.
They come back almost like PTSD. There can be flashes of memories that don't make any there can be dreams that are vivid, and some of it makes sense, some of it doesn't. Sometimes the individuals have had physical markings on their bodies. Triangles are common. I think these are just skin samples and things. I think that's all fairly benign, but people do get legitimate marks on them from engaging with ETs. But I really believe that the people are part of the design of this whole thing is that people do wake up. That I believe
Hmm.
is part of the whole process. This has been, I think we have benevolent beings looking after us. And I even think, because I've heard a lot of this, I think there is even sort of a Star Trek, sort of a Gene Roddenberry United Federation of Planets. I do.
No, I mean it makes
We
a lot
can
of sense.
hope.
And,
The universe has had the rest of the
many,
universe had like 9 billion more years to develop, longer than us. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
Hmm.
think they're kind of frustrated with us because I know there have been attempts. There was a gentleman called Valiant Thor that came in physical form and tried to get us to use free energy, and all of these efforts have been largely refused by the controlling powers. So I now believe that disclosure is a grassroots event. It's coming through you guys.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. This is happening in a different way than anyone could have imagined in the 1950s. No one could. There's not going to be any landing on the White House lawn. This is a grassroots movement. And I believe, the title of not my next book, but the one after. I believe we're all midwives of disclosure. We are
Ooh.
here. And you mentioned earlier is that do we come in sometimes with a sense of responsibility to do a task? I say yes. And I say there are so many of us here right now who have lived a number of lifetimes, who are trying to help everything. There's a lot of us here now. We're all midwives of disclosure. We chose to be here now in these highly exciting, transformational times.
Oh, they certainly are.
Hmm.
And, it's in disclosure from the government has been extremely frustrating. That report that they put out last year, where they basically said they kind of shrugged their shoulders. We don't know.
Oh, really?
And they
A
only
joke.
use data from the early 2000s. Like, wait a minute, you guys have had programs that have been studying this since the late 1940s at least. And so I was very
Yeah.
discouraged by that. But some people have tried to
It
put
was
a
a
positive
joke.
spin on it and say,
It
well, at
was a joke.
least they're
Yeah.
addressing a little bit. But yeah, I agree. It was a joke.
It's an
Yeah.
insult. It's an insult to our intelligence. It's an insult to our intelligence. And bear in mind here that an American, I'm a Yankee, and our money, the money of the US government has been siphoned into black ops projects in the
Oh, yeah.
trillions of dollars. There are trillions of dollars missing. So we, just like the US citizens paid for the internet, it was a military development, and
Yep.
now we have to pay a monthly fee to use something that we already paid for, you and I and our parents and our grandparents. Ridiculous. So I find that insulting. And if I see that footage of that stupid Tic Tac one more time, and what's his name with this little beard thing, I just find
Oh,
that just a lot of
Elizondo.
bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I do. Yeah, Elizondo, he's like, well, I'll say this, but I can't say that. And I won't say this, but I know that. And how do you like my little soul patch? I mean,
Well, I'll say this. I mean, I haven't met Lou, but he is very, very careful about what he says, because I've seen others over the years. And I spent some years in the military. I spent some time at NSA, and there are some guys that have been like, they've said things about, there was a insider that I spoke to, and he said this, that, or the other thing. And me, having been in a number of these different military programs, I'm just shaking my head. No, that there's nobody in that position that told you that, because they would never have said it that way. They would never described it like that. I'm just shaking my head. So, but Lou's been very careful about what he says.
well, there's a lot. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of. Yeah, he's very careful. He's like Nick Pope, slippery Nick. He never says anything either. It's, well, I was the minister, and then it's just the same old stuff. So, these guys, I don't know if they're still on the payroll for the government. I don't know if what their function is, but they don't seem to be really coming up with anything that's earth shaking, or, that's, there you have it. There's a lot going on, though. There is an awful lot going on, and it's all happening now. It's all happening. What was I going to say? Something went out. Sorry, I lost my mind.
It's all right.
I don't know.
So now you do have a book. I wanted to at least bring this up here real quick and bring the image up. So, Intersections, a true story of extraterrestrial contact. Yeah. So tell us about this book real quick, because we've got about 4 minutes left.
Oh, well, okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for bringing that up. This is my first book, and I wrote it with Wes Roberts, who Wes Roberts was one of my first experiencer clients, and we had the chance to go through. I think we had something like 30 some sessions. So this book is about Wes's journey as a lifelong experiencer. So it's full of his recollections, and I, unlike maybe some other books that are around, what I've done is there are an awful lot of direct transcriptions in this book, so people can really get a feeling for what this kind of regression feels like and is like. So it's Wes' story, and it will have a part 2, but it really brings the reader into an intimate experience with Wes as he travels through some really mind-bending stuff. So it's fascinating, and it's a little book. It'll only take it's a little book, so it won't take you too long to read it.
Nice.
Good.
I should also mention,
and it's available on Amazon.
Thank you. I think guess I get 39 cents or whatever it is for the.
Woo!
But Wes also has I know Wes has another book that has just come out, which is called An Experiencer's Garden, which are his own further takes and insights. He's got a lot of drawings in there, and that's also available on Amazon.com or Amazon.ca, or wherever you Amazon. An Experiencer's Garden, and then the first book is Intersects.
Oh, nice.
Fantastic. Victoria, any last questions? About 2 minutes left.
Oh, well, not in 2 minutes. Come on now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Lesley, where can everybody find you? I've been putting this link up, lightworkhypnosis.com. Is that where everybody can find you?
Yes, you can absolutely email me there. And then I am readily available on Facebook. You can look me up.
We lose her right at the very end.
Clarke, or
okay.
Whoa. I do my best. I do my best to reply to every single email. So just send me an email, and I will get back to you. Even if you just want to share your story with me and ask a question, I am available. This is my work. This is my life's work now. I am dedicated to helping these unique and magnificent brave individuals who have had many, many encounters, and helping them to integrate those experiences into their life, and thereby enriching all of our lives and raising our consciousness. That's 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 what I'm into.
Fantastic. Well, Lesley, thank you so much for joining us this evening. This was a wonderful
Oh,
conversation. I think we touched on a lot of important things, and I think we learned a lot this evening.
Oh yeah,
oh,
most definitely.
well, well, thank you guys. Thank you so much. It seems like we just got
Yeah.
started,
I know.
man. But and I wanted to talk about shadow people and the gin, and I mean, there's like about a million
Oh,
things I'd like to
Oh,
talk about
sure.
with you guys. But thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for your understanding and your accepting of these people who have had all amazing experiences. I thank you for the work that you do in getting the word out. It's
Absolutely.
important.
oh,
Absolutely.
thank
Well,
you. It was
thank
nice
you
to
so
meet
much.
you.
That was very sweet. And you have a great
Thank
evening.
you, my dear. Okay, both of you dears. Thank you.
All right.
Mwah.
Bye-bye,
Okay.
Leslie. All right. That was Lesley
fun.
Mitchell-Clarke. Yeah, that was a great conversation. I mean, the connection was a little iffy. She's on the road.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of what happens. But yeah, appreciate all the compliments. I've been trying to put up a number of these different compliments from everybody. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for joining this evening. We'll get to the shout outs here in just a moment. I have an announcement to make. Dun, dun, dun. Those that are part of the Connected Universe portal and have watched the Mike's Morning Mug video that I posted, I think it was yesterday morning, are already aware of this. I know Tom's already commented on it. I know Anne's already aware of it down there in the chat. Victoria, of course, obviously, as my co-host, already knows this information about Edge of the Rabbit Hole.
You want to go
And-
full screen? It's fine with me. Go full screen.
You want me to go full screen with this?
Sure.
Okay. You
It's
want off the
important.
screen? Okay.
Always.
So- So Victoria wants me
There
to go
you
full
go.
screen. All right. I'm going to put
It's
you back on the
important.
screen here in just a moment.
It's all you.
Because I think Victoria's probably going to get a tissue and cry. Because
Not drinking my water.
Oh, okay, she's drinking her water.
Yeah.
Because in the next month and a half, we are going to be ending Edge of the Rabbit Hole. Our last show will be March 29th of this year. A lot of reasons, details. We're going to do a final The End episode on March 29th. No special guest, just Victoria and I reminiscing and taking your questions and all that stuff. But see, now I'm going to bring you back up.
Oh no, I was thinking, oh sweet Jesus. No, I saved my fireworks.
You say the fireworks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've been doing this show. Well, Victoria's been with me for a year and a half. This is the 7th season of Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I've been doing this over 6 years now. And just there are a lot of other things that have been coming up, taking my time. And one of the things that I expressed to Victoria when I told her that about this was that I don't have enough time to really prepare for the guests each week anymore, and that's not fair to the guests. So, Victoria does a great job of preparing and researching. She mentioned earlier I was listening to this other interview and all that, and I haven't had time to do that. And again, that's not fair to the guests. And I have a lot of other things on my plate. Connecting the Universe will still be, because that's part of the Connected Universe portal. That's an interactive class. That is still staying. But we're going to lose Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We may come back every once in a while, do a special episode here or there. The YouTube channel is going to stay up. You can watch all the old videos, the archive. All of that will remain. Just new episodes with special guests they're not going to happen anymore.
You know why? I figured it out after you told me.
So, and hey,
What?
Whoops, where is it?
Wait.
The wrong one. Right there. Anne Celine. There's always a room for you on KPNL,
Aww.
Victoria, if you do a show. And I told you when I broke the news to you, you can do your own show. You should.
And I said, how? I
And
don't know anybody.
I can walk you through the setup. You're already familiar with StreamYard and all that. All you have to do is, there's a couple other buttons you have to press to do my side of it.
We'll see.
And just go.
Well, it's an astrology thing. For anyone who follows astrology, the North Node just shifted. It takes 9 years. 9 years. So what were you doing 9 years ago, Mike?
9 years ago, I was kind of muddling around. Remember we had Jim Hunt on a couple of weeks ago, and he said, I feel like you've really, grown a lot over the last 6 years. And it's like, that's as long as I've been doing Edge of the Rabbit.
Yeah. But probably I would wager, if I was a wagering man, and I was apparently at 1902 in San Francisco, just saying that, because, one of my past lives was back there. You were probably getting ready, starting up Haunted Road Media, probably getting ready to do some little, those remember those little cameras where you flip it open and you had the green screen, and you were probably doing that. Yeah,
Haunted Road Media officially started, I think, officially 2014. I'd been doing YouTube stuff since 2011. So that's like 11 years worth of that.
So roughly 9.
Yeah.
As we witnessed with this, the stock market, nothing in astrology is black and white. It's a watercolor. So it's a energy. So this is a very apropos time to end something and to start something new.
Yeah. So, it's time. I mean, there are a lot of other projects coming up, whether it's, on other platforms, things that I'm doing, it's I have all kinds of video projects that are in the works. I'm doing a lot more. I mean, we're doing the tours. Got all the speaking engagements. There's other I just had the whole thing where I flew out a couple weeks ago, kind of last minute to LA, which kind of and stuff like that. It's kind of getting in the way of, of keeping up with the rabbit hole and other things. Because I think a lot of people don't realize, they see us go live and all that. And I think there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I do. In addition, we could just go live and leave it at that. But I also prepare this show for, podcast distribution. So, that's taking the video, breaking out the audio, putting that in certain formats to go on, whether it's like Spotify, iHeartRadio, and then and down there with KPNL, I have a little intro clip. So there's, and I do the same with KGRA and UnX Radio, where there's little intro clips, because they all have to each be a little bit different. So there's a lot of prep work, plus all the posts and everything. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into that side of it. And so when I have to make it a trip like that, all of a sudden it's like, I don't have time to do all this stuff. There's actually a podcast for the rabbit hole that I forgot to post because I was out in LA and totally spaced it. Yeah.
So are you saying
with Robert Posnack? No, you do it. Do it. You should totally do it.
No, I'm saying I shouldn't have gotten that tattoo last week.
Oh yeah, I should have gotten the tattoo.
How am I going to change the tramp stamp? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. It all depends, because I'm up for another job, and that job demands total flexibility. And so when I told them about the podcast, they're like, "Ooh," like, "Oh, well, we're ending it, so you can still hire me."
There you go. There you go.
So, never say no.
Well, never say no. And like I said, I mean, we may still come back every once in a while and do a special episode. I'm going to be publishing a book from Alexandra Holzer this spring, so we might come back and do a special impromptu episode with Alex, so she can talk about her book. So
that'd be nice.
Reserve the right to do that on occasion. It's just on a weekly basis. There's just I don't have the time anymore.
This means you can do a Paracon for Haunted Road Media.
Yeah, that one's definitely not happening. Don't talk about not having time.
Okay.
Well, that's like, I mean,
trying.
well, no, I mean, all of that. I mean, that's a ton of work. So it's like with the Alaska trip, the Alaska tour they were talking about for 2023. Johnny Enoch and I are, trying to put that together, and he and I were both like, we can't. I don't have the time to put together. Johnny doesn't have the time to put together. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to talk to Maria from Mysterious Adventures Tour because she has all the connections and everything. Let Maria do the work.
Or push it to 2024.
We're already looking at 2023. We'll do other stuff in 2024.
Astrology. I'm telling you. Okay. Yeah.
So
anyway,
and Alina, don't forget us. No, never.
Who?
No, because
Who said that?
Alina. No,
Lena
and
I will always be friends.
Yeah,
Whatever,
you
Lena.
can always find me on Facebook and other social media, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. Again, Connected Universe portal is there, which I'll be doing a lot with. There's also the podcast version. If you're not a member of the Connected Universe portal, interact on Wednesday nights, you can still listen to the podcast version because that always goes public on all kinds of different platforms. So there's always ways to connect and interact and all of that stuff. The Haunted Road Media channel, the YouTube channel is still there. Yeah, there's only been a handful of videos over the past year, almost year and a half now. But you guys also got the Shadow Dimension instead. So that was a lot of work.
That was beautiful too.
Thank you.
That was wonderful.
Yeah. And that's another thing. It's like I'm working on season 2 of the Shadow Dimension, and there's other projects similar to that are in the works. And so something has to give, and I can't quit my day job yet. So
day job.
Yeah. And that's
day job.
That's 9 hours of my day right there. So
that's a short day. Anyway,
and yeah, there will you still keep the channel up so we can watch old programs? Yep. The channel will stay up. So you'll be able to watch all of that. The website will stay up, edgeoftherabbithole.com, which I don't know how useful that will be going down the road. Our current lineup, to give you our final lineup, let me bring up the website. Okay, our final lineup. It loads. Come on now. It's coming. Come on,
well, I'm joining the cast of Skinwalker Ranch. They don't know it yet.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna show up there one day. Like,
okay.
Hey.
Our final lineup. So next week is Les Velez on the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support. February 22nd, we have Dan Class from the Hinsdale House.
I have stories about Dan. Can I tell personal stories?
When Dan's on the show, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
March 1st, we have Natalie Jones from Paraflix.
Nice.
March 8th will be Rob Guttrow talking about his new book on the Birdcage Theater.
Have you been there?
I have not.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
So March 15th, Brandon Elvis from the Ghost Hunter show that was on A&E in his new book. We'll be talking about that. And then March 22nd, Dr. Kimberly McGeorge. And then the 29th of March is The End.
Or the beginning.
Well, it's
Can we turn it into a drinking game?
we could. No, I mean, we had an episode. This was before you, Victoria. We had Freddie Silva on. I love Freddie, and I tried to get him on. I've tried to get him on. It just, the schedule just hasn't worked out to bring him on again. And he had his cognac there. We had a good time with him that night.
I remember. I watched that.
Yeah.
I bought his book right after that. So.
Oh yeah, I love his work.
It's like, what's that in his hand?
So in next thing, we're having Dan on our show this Thursday. Awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. Dan and I went out to West Texas. It was October, I think.
That's October. Right. You were with Dan and Brandy.
Brandy, yeah, and that investigation had been pushed back for 2 years. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we had a lot of fun out there. It was interesting.
Nick, Edge of the Rabbit drinking hole. Yeah.
Or you could do like an Edge of the Rabbit Hole bingo game. Every time, someone says EVP, mark it off, or Yeah,
like Android Purity here. Mike will retire and come back, but will probably be a long time. I mean, yeah, I always reserve the right to change my mind and come back. It's just at this season of life, there's some things I need to put away from now, but could always bring them back out later. Yep. And I think Victoria should run with her own program.
A cat program? I don't know. Ghost cats?
You could call it, not my ghost cat.
They're, I tell you, no, they're not my cats. No, life is changing this year for sure. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, and if you need help setting it up, just let me know. I'll help you out with it.
I don't know anybody to talk to, but thank you. I'll just bring on the chatters each week. We'll highlight a chatter.
Start with reach out to 3 right off the bat: James Keenan, Katie Grabowski, Trey Hudson. Boom. There you go. Start with those 3.
Now that would be a drinking game.
Yeah.
I know those 3. Okay.
Reach out to Dan and Brandy, Carl Johnson. Just tell Carl not to eat.
It's taking me all my strength not to say something right now.
Yeah, Rob Guttrow come on and talk to
Rob's
you.
awesome.
Wait, he is. I love Rob, and he could talk to you about your cats.
They're not my cats.
Past and present.
I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot going on. I need a job first that'll stick.
See, and then there's Ann. I'd come on and chat with you. Yeah,
Okay.
Ann's got a lot going on. Bring on Ann.
Come on, Ann. We'll Ghouls Night Out. How about that?
There you go.
We'll go to haunted bars across the world.
So here's Mary's question. Yeah, connected universe portal. It's a $9.99 per month membership. There's also for the annual membership, there's a 20% off on that right now if you just want to get the annual. But you're getting more than just the Connecting the Universe weekly class, although that's a big thing. Every Wednesday night, it's kind of like this. We're taking a topic, we're running with it. You guys get to ask all your questions and everything in a little private forum, which is great. But you get you got your weekly Q&A videos, you got the Mike Morning Mugs videos, you got all the Inside Egypt stuff is on there. So like that whole Egypt course that's kind of broken out, that's actually inside the portal. So those that are members of the Connected Universe portal don't have to buy the Egypt thing because it's already in there, and you're talking over 10 hours worth of video footage and all that. There's Secrets of the American Southwest is in there. All kinds of behind the scenes, sneak peeks, and boatload of articles, and so there's a lot going on within the portal itself. So
just make sure you get the password.
Yeah,
I finally got it. I can reset it.
Yeah, Victoria was having password problems earlier today, so
he kicked me out. Mike said, "To the curb with you. Go away. Be gone, you former co-host."
So, and Ann says she loves how everything's organized. Thank you, Ann. Appreciate that. So, and I should put that link up on the banner here. So there you go. Keepers of the Connected Universe at connecteduniverseportal.com. So, all right, we'll go ahead and wrap this up now. So next week, again, we have Les Velez on the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support. So that'll be interesting.
Really will be.
Yeah, a little bit different. So, we need to get to shout outs. Cannot forget the shout outs. So
Fungi. She left.
Fungi. She had to go do dishes or something earlier. So
that's a very sexist remark.
No, she actually said that in the chat. I saw the
Sure.
message come up. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, Android Purity, thank you for joining us this evening. Good to see you down there. And Celine, of course, thank you as always. Alina the fam, thank you so much for moderating the chat. As always appreciated. Mary Haygood, thank you for joining us tonight. Nick Willay, thanks for dropping by. My good buddy there. Tracy Christian, thank you as well. And Steve Humphrey. Those are in the participants tab. Have to thank Haunted Road Media's Fairy Queen Diane Hilbert.
Woo-hoo.
As always. Stacy Comiskey, thank you for joining us tonight. She kind of came in toward the end, but thank you for joining us. She's saying that she is going to have to go rewatch the show. Yeah, it was a good one. There was a bit of a delay and a little breaking up, but the content was really good.
Oh, yeah. I still have other questions. I still think if you that could bring in multiple personalities if you keep picking at your past lives. There's no way you can't. I mean, it's not like you're going to be all civil or anything.
Yeah, and therapists will say you have schizophrenia, but
well, we have different personalities. The way we react to different things.
Thayer, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Sue Bernetti, thank you for joining us as well. Just kind of scrolling up here a little bit. Is Adam in the house? Helen Espinoza. There's Helen. Yeah, I'm gonna scroll back down now. I don't know. I don't see Adam. So Adam, I want to put his little eyes up there, but I guess he's not here.
I think he missed nap time, or was
Well,
it
you know, and we started at a different time this year too. Where we started at 8:30 rather than 9:30. All right. So everybody, you have a good night. We will see you next week, and hope to. Well, I know I'll see a couple of you there for. Connected Universe, or Connecting the Universe this week, not tomorrow night. I'm going to make a post on the forum there. Not tomorrow night, because this is where I told you we get real busy lately. I double booked for tomorrow, so I have a 2-hour interview that I'm doing tomorrow that I accidentally booked. So I'm pushing Connecting the Universe to Thursday night, same time, 8 p.m. We'll be talking. It's going to be a Shadows episode, but we've got some other twists and information and directions we're going to take that conversation. Kind of related to what I was out in LA for. So.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, sure.
I haven't said anything.
I can't speak specifically on it, but I can get a little bit on the topic.
I will be alone in a haunted hotel tomorrow. Hope to see you next week.
Yeah. All right. So
See ya.
Take care, everyone. Good night. And here we go.